Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. Today's Wednesday, and I will be live tonight at 7 p.m. Central. So I have a guest tonight, Joanna. If you want to join me, we're going to be coloring, adult coloring. Now, if you've never seen this, you got to see this. Joanne is incredible what she does coloring. Like, I just try to stay between the lines. This woman can color. But first, today, in this episode, we're going to go back to the state of Michigan versus James Crumley. This is day 4 that I'm recapping of this trial. He is on trial for involuntary manslaughter, and this all stems out of the Oxford school shooting where 4 people lost their lives. 4 teenagers lost their lives. Many others were injured, and it occurred on November 30th of 2021. The week following everybody returning after Thanksgiving, November 26th, the day after Thanksgiving, James Crumley enabled his son by buying him a 6-hour 9mm. And that piece of information is so important. Wait till you see today's evidence. Oh my gosh. Things that we didn't necessarily see in Jennifer Crumley's trial. So the first person on the stand for day 4 was Sheriff Adam Stosick. He was part of the search that occurred at the James Crumley home of the Crumleys. Now, after the school shooting, James Crumley, he calls 911 and says that his gun is missing. So as soon as they were able to identify who the school shooter was, Ethan Crumley, they sent someone over to the Crumley house because they wanted to obtain a search warrant over, to see what else was in this property. They do that for all shooters. As soon as they find out who the shooter is, they want to know, they want to go to that shooter's home and they want to search it. But they needed to obtain a search warrant. So several officers were sent over there to keep an eye on James and Jennifer. That really wasn't their task. Their task was to secure the home, not go in it, but just make sure nobody else goes in it. But James and Jennifer were home, so they were put into the back of a police car. Now, Jennifer was handcuffed, and this officer was asked, why was she handcuffed? And he said, I didn't handcuff her. I'm not sure why they handcuffed her. They did. And she's like, what did I do wrong? She's put in. These parents had no clue because this has never happened before. There have never been parents that were charged with a mass school shooting by their children. Well, times are changing, folks. So this guy participated in the search, this witness, and he first showed a map of the layout of the house. It's this quaint little house. It really is cute, but it's very narrow and long. It is the only way I can describe it. So he also walked the jury through several photographs of what the inside of this house looks like. And keep in mind, I'm going to show you a lot of photographs today versus video. So you might want to look up from time to time. But this house, these pictures were taken before the search. Yeah. So they didn't keep the cleanest of houses, but neither do I. So I'm not judging. So the first picture I want to show you is as soon as you walk in the front door to the right, this is like the living room area. You see the coffee table there and some blankets and pillows thrown on the couches. The next photograph is, this on November 26th, the day after Thanksgiving, following the purchase of the 6-hour 9mm, they went Christmas tree shopping. So they've got their Christmas tree up already. It's not even Christmas yet. It's not even December yet. That's a little early for me. I know a lot of people do that. I don't do that. She's got Christmas decorations up. Yeah. Now this part of the house, it looks okay. I love the wood floors. Not doesn't make any difference what I like, but anyway, this is one of 2 bedrooms that Ethan Crumley had in the home. Now, this was not the one he slept in. Apparently, we learned during Jennifer Crumley's trial that rather than have him clean up his room like she should have done. She just gave him another room. So he actually occupied 2 bedrooms in this home. This is Ethan Crumley, the shooter's bedroom. This is what you see when you walk into the door. You can see the geometry book there. There's a tripod. You can see those silhouettes on the wall that they use at target practice. He's got a couple of those posted up. This is another angle to the room. He's got some medals up there. I wonder what the medals are for. I'm just kind of curious what he got medals in. Whatever it was that interested him, apparently was no longer his interest, which was now guns. The next picture is of the parents' bedroom, James and Jennifer Crumley. Now, this is before the search. This is exactly how this case appeared when they walked in. This was the case that the 6-hour 9mm, the murder weapon, was stored in. And the shooter obviously took it out of the case. The box next to it is where the bullets were. He took the bullets with him and the magazines and left the case in an empty box sitting there on his parents' bed. This is an armoire that is in the parents' bedroom. Now, this is where James said the other 2 guns were, but they actually were not in this armoire. They were in a, this is where they were. That's what they're calling the safe. In this photograph, you'll see it's looks like a black gun case, but they're calling it a gun safe. It's not very large. This was actually in the TV stand. So underneath the TV to the right side, this was where they found the gun safe. Now, when they took the gun safe out, underneath of it were a couple of magazines, and that is a holster to the right of those magazines. This was what was in that gun safe. It was the Derringer Cobra, which is the fancier, the smaller of the 2 guns. The other gun was the Keltec. So those are photographs that the jury was walked through this witness. The next witness on the stand was the part of the fugitive apprehension team. So December 2nd, well, let me back up even further than that. The night that the Crumleys' home was searched after the shooting, this is November 30th, same day as the shooting. After the shooting, they come, they wait at the property. The home is secured. Nobody's allowed to go in or out. Because the search is going to be conducted at that property, they're waiting for the search warrant. The Crumleys are in the back of the vehicle. Well, they didn't end up spending the night in that home. In fact, they never spent another night in that home. After they were done, the police was done with them that evening. They went to the police station. They gave an interview. They went to a hotel that night, and they stayed in that hotel until the morning of December 2nd. It was a Holiday Inn Express. Now, it wasn't until December 2nd that it started coming out in the media that focus was on the parents and that the parents might be charged. So this was when the fugitive apprehension team was brought in to play. They were tasked with locating Jennifer and James Crumley, and they did locate. They actually didn't start looking for Jennifer and James till the afternoon of the 2nd, because nobody really knew where they were. So they found a vehicle at a hotel. They figured out the first hotel, and they figured out that they had already checked out. So now they're checking other hotels. They find Jennifer Crumley's vehicle at another hotel where they were not at. So now nobody knows where they're at, and they've got people watching this vehicle to see if they come back for it. And it wasn't until December 3rd, the following day, that James Crumley was even charged with involuntary manslaughter. So at the time that Jennifer and James are nowhere to be found, they don't know that they've been charged with anything. But the police are looking for them even before they were charged, which seems odd to me. This officer talks about how they got a tip, a 911 tip from a citizen about where they were located the night of December 3rd. They responded to what is being described as an industrial building. And I'm going to show you the outside of that building. There's a couple of angles of that building. Nobody lives in this building. It's just businesses. So the following witness is a man who owns a coffee shop and a coffee business in that warehouse. He works out of 2 of the 3 floors. He's some space on the 3rd floor and some space on the 2nd floor. He imports and roasts coffee and also has a coffee shop in a few different locations in Detroit. Now, this industrial building, I probably didn't mention it, was in Detroit, which I might add is like just a hop, skip, and a jump to the border to Canada, because I've been to Canada via Detroit myself. So this citizen said he saw that night when he arrived at the warehouse. He came to the warehouse. I don't recall what he said he was there for, but there was a vehicle parked in the farthest from the entrance parking space, and it was backed in. So he thought he didn't recognize the vehicle. He thought that was kind of odd. And so he goes into the building, he gets a flashlight, and he goes out to look at this vehicle. And he looks at the license plate of the vehicle, and he realizes that earlier he had seen, like he called a wanted poster, but I think on social media they had put out this license plate number and the description of the vehicle for people to be on the lookout for James and Jennifer Crumley, who were wanted for involuntary manslaughter. Yeah, like the judge had already ordered that they be picked up or that they turn themselves in. Now, the question is, did they know this? Did they know that they were supposed to turn themselves in? I don't know. So this guy remembers he saw a poster of the license plate, and he said that, yes, this was the vehicle and the license plate that he had seen on the poster. So as he's walking around this vehicle, he sees another person sitting on the curb smoking a cigarette. Person had on a hoodie. He doesn't know if it was a man or a woman, but he just goes quickly back into the building. He said he's a little apprehensive, a little scared, and he goes in, he calls 911, and they respond. So and you could tell he was just enjoying himself on the witness stand. He testified in Jennifer's case too, so he's having a good time with this. Now, there was a reward out as well. I don't know if he collected the reward, but in any case, the next person on the stand was a SWAT team member. They did show the video of the apprehension of James and Jennifer Crumley, but when this guy got there, he said, we were like the last team to arrive because they had to go and get all their tactical gear and the SWAT, the SWAT stuff. They had to get all that stuff and come to the scene. And then they had to do a thorough search of this building because they didn't know where inside this building James and Jennifer were. But he said when they got there was so many cop cars. There was at least 10 cop cars. He said the place was just buzzing with activity. And the reason they're bringing that out, the prosecution is bringing that out, is, why, if James and Jennifer were just like staying there because a friend let them stay there and they really had no plans to flee the country, when they heard all these vehicles or this commotion outside, why didn't they just come out and say, hey, we're here? Now it's 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I'll give you that. And they were sleeping when they were apprehended. But I have some doubts about that as well. The next person on the stand was a crime scene investigator who was tasked with coming out to this industrial building after James and Jennifer Crumley were apprehended. They were found on the 1st floor of this building in an artist's gallery, and the artist was their friend. He had let them stay there. There was a mattress on the floor and all kinds of things. So this crime scene investigator took a lot of photographs, and I'm going to walk you through some of these photographs because what you're going to see is really interesting. So when you first walk into the area where they were, you can see right away you notice these huge bay wall of windows. The police were, that's the north side of the building. Police were right outside. All of this activity was going on right outside these windows. Just down towards the right of this photograph, you'll see a mattress. That's where they were found sleeping when the police, using a battering ram, rammed the door in, and they were supposedly asleep on that and startled and woke up. So I don't know who this artist is, but he's a pretty good artist, by the way. But I digress. Anyway, if you see the scaffolding on the right-hand side of this photograph, there's some bins on that scaffolding. This crime scene investigator found behind that scaffolding were 2 bins that were on the floor. Here are the 2 bins that were on the floor. And in that farthest one up to the top of the picture, inside was a very large, like, purse type object, a gray purse. So that's how, they photographed it when they found it. Inside of that were 2 bank envelopes. Cash was in both of those. Also, in this purse, and it's a very dark picture, but you can see up in that pocket, there's a wad of cash. There's also some pill bottles there that were taken out of that purse. Here there were 4 cell phones. Now, they were all turned off, but they had 4 cell phones in there, a bank card, some keys. Now, my first thought was, it was so well hidden. Was this theirs? But yeah, it was theirs. That was their bank card. That was their prescriptions. That was their phones that they were using. Now, here is the medication, and it's got Jennifer Crumley's name on it. Now, it looks like, I can't make out what those are, what that medication is, and neither could he. I think the one on the right is a sedative, like Valium type medication. I don't know what the other 2 are. And what they have to do is photograph the cash. So he lays it all out, the cash that was in the pocket, the cash that was in the bank cards. And I don't know what the total was, but I didn't add it all up. But there's several pictures of all of the cash. The other things that were found that I'm not going to show you the photographs of all of it. They found various pieces of clothing, some brand new that they just purchased. They found a fanny pack. They found a backpack. They found some Vivarin pills, which are like caffeine pills. And then they found that tote with the purse in it that we talked about. All right, so the next person on the stand was Detective Special Investigator. He's the head of the Detective Special Investigations Unit. And he first addressed the multiple phones. He said, we told them when, because people don't have home phones anymore. So when we took their phones to search their phones, we told them, go get a couple of track phones. So that's what they did. They went and got a couple of track phones. And later on, they went to T-Mobile and got 2 brand new phones with their same phone number on it. So that's why they had 4 cell phones. I mean, it makes sense. But in any case, he also explained that they had made several cash withdrawals out of their bank, Flagstar. On December 2nd, they had withdrawn $2,000 in cash. December 3rd, they had withdrawn $4,000 in cash. And on November 30th, they had transferred $3,000 of their son's money out of his account into their account, leaving a balance of 99 cents in his account. So that's the day of the shooting. They're transferring money out of his account the day of the shooting. I just would love to know what they were thinking. What was in their head? So this officer said that there were no arrangements made with the Crumleys for them to surrender themselves. Now, what they were not allowed to talk about, the prosecutor was not allowed to elicit, because it's all hearsay, is that Jennifer and her attorney had been on the phone that night trying to make arrangements for them to turn themselves in the next day. Allegedly, that's what I suspect was going on during that phone conversation. He also mentioned that, the day their son was arraigned, they were not present for the arraignment. That would have been my first order of business if something had happened with my son. I would have been like, where is he? I need to talk to him. Now, James got to talk to him in the interview room at the police station that night, but they weren't there for the arraignment. How strange. So the next thing that this investigator talked about was that they found the shooter's belongings in a backpack, and they also found a journal. So one of the things that they had discovered that the day of the shooting, when they figured out it was Ethan Crumley, they found a YouTube video that Ethan Crumley had made where he's putting together a Molotov cocktail. So before they could clear the crime scene at the Oxford High School that day, they had to bring in the SWAT team or the explosive team to search the building for explosives, because they weren't sure if maybe he had put some somewhere, in addition to the shooting, because they had seen this Molotov cocktail video. And he agreed with the defense counsel on cross-examination that, we don't know if James Crumley was aware of that video. We don't know. But one of the things that they found amongst his belongings was a journal. 22 pages of that journal had either writings or pictures on the pages. And every single one of those 22 pages references to a shooting. So I'm going to go through some of those with you guys, some of those journal entries. And his handwriting is atrocious, I might add. And when it was asked about whether, because we can all look at journal entries, but the question is, did James Crumley ever see these journal entries, or did he even know about a journal? Well, if you remember, or maybe I didn't tell you, but one of the things, when James was brought in the morning, when James and Jennifer came in that morning to meet with their son in the counselor's office, one of the things James said to his son was, you can write in your journal. So he was very aware that his son had a journal. So I'm going to show you some of these entries, because bizarro is what it is. Now, on these photographs, you'll see that there's things that have been redacted, blacked out. I'd love to know what those are. But so I'm going to describe what's on these, because it's difficult to read, and you can't really go chronologically by page number, because apparently he was writing from the back of the journal to the front of the journal. So it wasn't going, in like page 3, 4, or 5. He was going 22, 21. Yeah, it's weird. So on page 22 of the journal, he says, I want to shoot up the fucking school so badly. Soon I'm going to buy a 9mm pistol. That's on page 22. Also on page 22, I will have to find where my dad hid my 9mm before I can shoot the school. These are very disturbing. Then on page 19, he says, my parents won't listen to me about help or a therapist. Page 17, he says, all I need is my 9mm pistol, which I am currently begging my dad for. Then on page 15 of the journal, he says, unfortunately, my dad does not want me to get the 9mm gun, and we we are having financial problems and I don't have a job. So now I'm pissed because I want to do the school shooting with a 9mm pistol, and they are effective for killing, but all I got is a something 22 LR Keltec that I don't know where my dad hid it. It's very hard to read. Then on page 6 of the journal, he says, I have zero help for my mental problems as it's causing me to shoot up this fucking school. I don't know why his attorney, Ethan Crumley's attorney, didn't plead him as insanity on his defense, but they didn't. So page 5 of the journal, it says, I want help, but my parents won't listen to me, so I can't get any help. Page 3 of the journal. So we should be going to get my, it's some reference to a gun soon. And another entry on page 3 is, I'm about to shoot up the school and spend the rest of my life in prison. And then the last entry on page 3, first off, I get my gun. It's a SP-2022 Sig Sauer 9mm. The shooting is tomorrow. I have access to the gun and the ammo. I am fully committed this tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going to prison for life, and many people have about 1 day left to live. Now, I want you, when they were going through this, following the journal entry, they showed actual footage of the school shooting. And there's no volume to it. The court asked the media not to show the footage, and they did not. But what they did was they put the camera on the defendant, and I have some pictures of the defendant. He was very, very emotional, as you can see. He was crying during this video, as well as, you know, it really bothered him. You could tell it really, really bothered him what his son had done. And the officer talked about how he named all of the victims, the survivors that had been injured, and then he named each of the 4 shooting victims. Hannah St. Juliana, he mentioned she was 14 years old and had multiple gunshot wounds. And now this detective that's on the stand reading, he's reading them from the autopsy reports. And he's visibly shaken. He's on the verge of crying. Madison Baldwin, she was 17 years old. She died of a gunshot wound to the head. Tate Meir, he was 16 years old. He died of multiple gunshot wounds. And Justin Schilling, who was 17 years old, also shot in the head. So that's where court ended for the day. Everybody was quite emotional. Yeah, it was pretty sad. So they did the cross-examination of this witness, and then the prosecution said they had no more witnesses for the day. So they were resuming court today. And tomorrow I will be outlining and recapping day 5 of this trial. Don't forget, I'm going to be live tonight. So I hope to see you there. That's at 7 p.m. Central. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.